Behavior more often than not gets a lot of shit for their actions. Sometimes the community is overreacting, which they love to do, but most of the time, behavior probably did a goof. Which, by nature, you're gonna mess up as a video game company, and I think behavior can, from time to time, push out some great patches or have good changes. They occasionally show that they are somewhat competent in balancing the game, and I do genuinely think they can improve on some things. But behavior will never, ever have good map design. I've learned to accept it, and it's a hill I will die on. I could go on for hours about every single map flaw in the game, but to spare your soul, I'm just gonna keep it short. Now, one of behavior's many critiques is that they don't like going back on decisions or listening to the community. And while there is a good amount of truth to that, it's the most blatant when it comes to discussions on their map design. For example, when Breakable Doors were first released on Dead Dog Saloon, I don't remember a single soul liking them. Matter of fact, I think most people despised them. And one of those people was me. Well, I shouldn't say was, because I still do despise them. They're basically pre-dropped god pallets that the killer has to break to stop some broken window, except in the case of Killer Shack on Dead Dog, then it makes one of the best structures in the game pretty mid. And when Behavior heard this feedback, they did nothing. In fact, they continued to sprinkle them into new maps and reworked ones. They were so stubborn on keeping them in the game, and maybe they thought they would age well or something, but they haven't. Most people still don't like them. I don't know how much crack the map design team has been doing, but it's getting out of hand. Like, maps have only gotten worse over time. I would argue that from the release of Lemkin Lane to Garden of Joy, only the swamp maps and the Yamaoka maps are pretty close to balanced, and even then Grim Pantry has some glaring problems. Just to name a few problematic maps. The release of Layers was negatively received, part of the reason being that the map was indoors, and they went on to add 4 more indoor maps, one of which might be coming back. Garden of Joy is the newest map, and there are some extremely busted windows in the main building. If the killer is 110% movement speed killer, they will literally lose chase, making the window an actual infinite. Not to mention that the map is littered with extremely safe and plentiful pallets. Not to mention some of the crackhead totem spawns on that map. When Eerie of Crows was released and the Survivor ran Boilover, which at the time was very strong, it was actually impossible to hook them if they were on the top floor of the main building. When RPD was released, the library was one of the most busted places to loot a killer in the history of the game. When Midwich was released, using Object of Obsession at the time would literally make a killer that didn't have a movement-based power take minutes just to start a chase with you. You could do this by literally holding W. The game can literally have up to 28 pallets at times, all of which are probably safe. Haddonfield Orman and the preschools have all been reworked and are still extremely survivor-sided. Seriously, I could go on and on, but I think you get the point. While some of the earlier maps do have their problems, especially some of the Cold Wind variations, those are still the maps that are closest to being balanced. Then again, some of them can be very killer-sided or very survivor-sided. How? Well, map RNG is fucking dogshit. Take Shelter Woods for example. Sometimes you get 4 jungle gyms and connecting pallets between all of them, and sometimes half the map is a dead zone and all the tiles are TNL walls or long short walls. Sometimes totems are harder to spot than a Viet Cong soldier in the trees, and sometimes Stevie Wonders can fucking see them. Sometimes you get no pallet tile near your generator, and sometimes you can have double pallets right next to each other. However, 100% of the time, you are guaranteed to get the shittiest pallet in the game, which is this one on Temple of Purgation. I want whatever drugs the devs were taking when they made this pallet. Seriously, the RNG is horrible, and I get having RNG is important to stop the game from getting stale, but it's way too inconsistent. It's the only reason tournament level play in deBAD is so much worse than any other game. Lastly, I wanted to touch on the easiest way to fix maps if behavior were to hypothetically give a shit about them. It's really simple. Just make maps smaller, dude. Like Cold Tower is basically worshipped by the community as the best map in the game, and I agree. I think all the maps should be around the size of Cold Tower. Like if you're playing on Mother's Dwelling as killer without a movement-based power, there's almost no chance you hook one person before a gen gets done. It's nearly impossible unless you're playing against brain-dead monkeys. Even then, I think you'd struggle. Making maps smaller would solve so many problems, it shouldn't take the killer a full minute to walk from one side of the map to the other. Anyways, I wouldn't hold my breath on maps changing anytime soon. Behavior has shown that it's clearly their weakest suit, and I don't think that's going to change. I've honestly just accepted it. Like, the recent RPD change makes the map worse. Just the god palette on the stairs, dude. There used to be 2 of them too before they patched it out. Well, anyways, that's all I have to say, everyone. Good night.